The 5 Kage vs the Yonko, a clash between two factions of their respective verses that are considered top tiers for their power and abilities as well as their political status. So, which group would ultimately come out on top? Well, by analyzing both groups' respective members and their stats, I hope to give you an answer to this exact question. But before we get into the meat and potatoes, I'd like to quickly establish the versions of each group that are going to be used for this video, which to clarify means I'm going to be sticking to the scaling of the original 4 Emperors, Whitebeard, Shanks, Kaido, and Big Mom. And for the 5 Kage, I'll be using the version that fought Madara. But with the iterations of both groups being set, we can now begin scaling and get to the truth of the matter. The first thing we need to talk about when discussing this matchup is attack potency, and we'll be starting with the Yonko, as I think their AP is the more contentious of the two groups. This is because Whitebeard is stated by Sengoku to have the power to destroy the world, which some use to say that Whitebeard is planetary/star level, while others call the statement hyperbolic. And I myself have used both these arguments in videos before, therefore since I've been on opposite ends of the discussion, I now think I can solidly conclude that this statement isn't exactly hyperbolic, but more so exaggerated or taken out of context, as most people interpret this statement hyperliterally and assume Whitebeard can just King Vegeta style blow up the planet. However, this doesn't have to be the case at all, since Sengoku doesn't even use the word planet when making this claim, and to reiterate uses the word world, with most of the definitions for the word not even referring to the planet itself, which is consistent with the story, as whenever world is used in the manga, it's never referring to the One Piece planet itself, but rather the word is referring to society and the country/islands or anything else under the rule of the world government. And a good example of this is during Eni's lobby when Usopp shoots the world government flag, and Spandam says, "You really think you can survive now that the entire world is your enemy?" You see how this statement doesn't make sense when you assume world means planet? Exactly. So why would the Whitebeard statement be any different when both people who talk about the world are world government officials? Also, if you thought the example I gave was disanalogous, you'd be incorrect, since Whitebeard's Fever card backs up what I'm proposing completely, with it specifically stating him having the power to destroy the world is only in reference to his title and not power level. Which makes complete sense when you consider the type of threat the Yonko are in terms of military power and influence, as well as the fact that the Navy is literally the outward face of the world government. But now that we know Whitebeard isn't planetary, we can now get into just how powerful him and the other Emperors are actually, which is pretty easy to scale, as Hybrid Kaido and Luffy's Sky Split has been calced to be able to output 2 petatons of TNT worth of kinetic energy, which cut in half would give Kaido an AP equal to 1 petaton of TNT worth of kinetic energy, or continental level. And this isn't even the peak of Hybrid Kaido's power, as we've seen that he can amp himself when getting drunk by at least 50 times, scaling to the Gear 2 and Gear 4 multipliers, which are 5 and 10 times respectively, giving drunk Hybrid Kaido an AP of around 50 petatons of TNT, which is multi-continental level. And Old Whitebeard as well as Shanks' AP would only upscale from this, as Kaido views these two as some of the only people capable of fighting him. Therefore, they should be able to replicate similar feats to Kaido and Luffy themselves. Not to mention, Whitebeard is simply stated to be the strongest pirate in the world on his meds, and Shanks is able to rival this Whitebeard, on top of him already being stated and shown to have defeated Kaido. As for our last Emperor, Big Mom, and her AP though, it's slightly less impressive than the other Yonko, but only slightly, since both her and Kaido are stated not to be inferior to the pre-time skip admirals. The same pre-time skip admirals who Fujitora scales to in power, as rank in the Navy is stated to directly correlate with fighting ability, with Fujitora having the ability to summon meteors calculated to be able to output 1 petaton of TNT worth of kinetic energy, giving Big Mom at the very least continental level attack potency. As for each character's durability though, every one of the OG Yonko except Shanks has shown comparable durability to their AP via Newton's third law, or by fighting opponents comparable to themselves in terms of AP. But with the Yonko's AP/durability out of the way, we can now segue into the Kage and their AP/durability. Starting with the Raikage, whose AP/durability is pretty straightforward, as not only is he stated to have Biju levels of chakra by Karin, but even before he became Raikage, he was able to permanently remove the Horn of the Eight Tails. The same Eight Tails that can tank its own island level Biju bomb to the chest without any mutilation, giving the Raikage island level AP, which was scaled to his durability via Newton's third law, with Tsunade's AP and durability only upscaling from this, since Madara quite literally says Tsunade is stronger than the Raikage after being hit by both. And Gaara's Sand would also scale to this level, since with it Gaara is able to stop an attack from a bloodlusted V2 Raikage at the 5 Kage summit. which via Newton's third law would mean the AP of the sand would have to scale to its durability, since it's able to output a similar force to the V2 Raikage's kick, or it would have gone straight through the sand. Moving on though, our next Kage, Onoki, scales quite a bit above the others, as this Jintone's hypothetical destruction of Turtle Island was calculated to be able to output around 102 gigatons of TNT, which is large island level. However, Onoki's durability doesn't necessarily equate to his Jintone's AP, and a better way to scale his durability is comparing it to Madara's Tengai Shinsei that was calculated to be able to output 2 teratons of TNT, which is country level. And while some people may be quick to point out the fact that Onoki was knocked out by the Tengai Shinsei, the fact of the matter is his body was still intact afterwards, meaning he would still have to be able to withstand a comparable amount of force to the attack regardless. With Onoki out of the way though, the last Kage we have to talk about is the Mizukage Mei, and I'm just gonna go right ahead and say Mei has basically 0 AP feat / scaling, but she does have some useful jutsu that I'll talk about a little later on. Speaking of jutsu though, it's now time to talk about the Kage's hacks, and since we've already been talking about Mei, we can continue with her. And for those who don't already know, Mei is a master of water release ninjutsu, fire release ninjutsu, and earth release ninjutsu, which lets her use 2 Kekkei Genkai, those being lava release and boil release. 2 super acidic nature releases that Mei can produce from her mouth in the form of projectile lava spills for lava release, and fog-like vapor for boil release. Skipping ahead though, since we've already started discussing the Kage's abilities in reverse order to AP, we'll next have to talk about Onoki. And with him being the Tsuchikage of the Stone Village, he's obviously a master of earth release ninjutsu, which allows him to create multiple stone-like constructs, which includes fists, golems, and even clones. Onoki's earth release isn't just limited to constructs though, as he can also use it to lighten and add weight to anything he touches, with Onoki using this ability in combination with the Raikage and Gaara's sand to make them stronger and faster than normal. Onoki's abilities don't just stop at earth release, however, as his strongest jutsu, dust release, is a nature transformation Kekkei Genkai that is a combination of earth, wind, and fire release, creating a 3-dimensional form out of chakra in his hands that moves astonishingly fast at a target and disintegrates them on a molecular level, which could be considered a form of durability negation. However, this is a little iffy. Moving on, our next Kage to talk about is Gaara, who is a user of magnet release, which allows him to generate a magnetic field, which he can apply to his sand, letting him control it freely to attack and protect himself, as well as restrain and reposition opponents for an advantage in battle. Furthermore, the sand can even be used to erect constructs like pyramids and depictions of Gaara's mother that can seal opponents that are even stronger than Gaara himself. Next up for the Kage and their abilities though, we have Tsunade, who pretty much has super strength due to her precise amount of chakra control and Byakugo seal, as well as advanced medical ninjutsu she can use to heal herself and other Kage. However, all of these abilities pale in comparison to her use of the 100 healings technique, which allows her to regenerate from fatal wounds in mere moments via accelerated cell division, and while using the 100 healing, Tsunade can even share her chakra with other Kage to enhance their abilities as well. With Tsunade out of the way though, the last Kage's abilities to talk about now is the Raikage, who simply supercharges himself with his lightning armor to increase his power, durability, and speed. Skipping past that, we can now go ahead and get into the abilities of the Yonko, starting with Kaido, who just like the Raikage has pretty simple abilities, at least in terms of his main abilities that stem from him eating the fish fruit, which allows him to turn into a giant super powerful dragon capable of spitting fire and using other ranged attacks, as well as a human dragon hybrid form that's even stronger than his dragon form. But with the simple part of Kaido's abilities discussed, we can now talk about his use of Haki, starting with the fact that he can use all 3 forms of Haki and their advanced variants. With advanced observation Haki, Kaido can literally see the future and precog anyone who's on the same speed tier as him, and with advanced armament and conqueror's Haki, Kaido can infuse his attacks with these forms of Haki to destroy opponents from the inside without even having to make physical contact with them. Also, since Haki is the power system of One Piece, all the emperors possess these exact same abilities, with Shanks literally relying on his use of Haki to be as strong as he is. Therefore, I will not be mentioning these abilities again when talking about Big Mom and Whitebeard. Speaking of Whitebeard though, he's next up for abilities, and if you don't already know, he ate the Gura Gura no Mi, which gives Whitebeard the power to generate massive vibrations or shockwaves that leave massive destruction in their wake and can travel through virtually any medium, including the ground, the seafloor, and even the air, which is considered a form of durability negation by Versus Battle Wiki. But the last Emperor's abilities to talk about after Whitebeard is Big Mom's, and like most other Emperors, she also consumed a Devil Fruit, with hers being known as the Soul Fruit. giving her the power of soul manipulation, which, as demonstrated by Big Mom, consists of manifesting and drawing out the souls of people who feel fear towards her, subsequently allowing her to extract the victim's soul by grabbing it and pulling it out, which steals and shortens the victim's lifespan, with the amount of time stolen being determined by Big Mom herself. Now that both groups' hacks and AP/durability have been discussed though, we can talk about the last and possibly most pivotal aspect of this matchup, speed. Continuing with the Yonko that would all scale to a base Kaido, who was able to swing his Thunder Bagua at 9 times faster than light, with Whitebeard and Shanks specifically scaling to an even faster hybrid Kaido, who was able to keep up with the Gear 2 Wano Luffy that already clipped the aforementioned base Kaido in his own base later on. And since Gear 2 is an at least 5 times multiplier in all stats including speed, this would give Gear 2 Wano Luffy, hybrid Kaido, Shanks, and Whitebeard all a combat speed of 45 times faster than light. But as for why Shanks and Whitebeard upscale from Kaido, this is once again because Kaido views these two as some of the only people capable of fighting him, which would obviously imply that they can keep up with him in combat as well. Skipping forward though, it's time to talk about the Kage and their speed, starting with the main speedster of the group, the right Kage, who is literally stated to be able to move at the speed of light in the 3rd data book. And after the right Kage, we have Tsunade, who would upscale from the same Kakashi that was able to intercept lightning bolts at Mach 2986 or massively hypersonic speeds, due to the fact that for the majority of Naruto, Kakashi considers the Sannin to be stronger than him and quite literally sees himself dying against a Tsunade level opponent in Orochimaru. Also, for those of you who think Kakashi magically got faster over the course of Shippuden due to the fact that he trains, we literally know this is not the case, since even 500 chapters later, Haku is able to repeat the exact same feat as in the Land of Waves against the so-called faster Kakashi. With Tsunade out of the way though, it's time to talk about the Tsuchikage speed, and despite the fact that a lot of people don't know this, Onoki's speed is underrated, as he was shown to be able to move faster than Madara's Tengai Shinsei Meteor that has been calculated to be able to move at Mach 347,000, or around 40% the speed of light, giving Onoki relativistic combat speed when flying. Moving past Onoki, our next Kage to scale in speed is Mei, and I'm sorry to say this, but just like with her AP, this is pretty unquantifiable, as unfortunately she just lacks definitive feats that scale her anywhere in speed. However, our last Kage, Gaara, is surprisingly the fastest of the 5, or at least his sand is, as not only is it able to blitz the V2 Raikage as I mentioned prior, but it's also comparable to Kamui's warp speed that scales to KCM1 Naruto, with this KCM1 Naruto being calculated to be able to move at 72 times faster than light, giving Gaara's sand massively faster than light speed. But now that both groups' scaling has been concluded, we can now get into this matchup's evaluation. And if you've been paying attention the entire video, you'll realize why this matchup isn't close, as the Yonko vastly outclassed the Kage in pretty much all categories. Therefore, even busted abilities like Onoki's Dust Release and Tsunade's 100 healings are of no use here. And even the water style user in Mei that can take out 3 of the 4 Yonko can't even touch them due to the speed difference. Furthermore, even though Gaara's sand outspeeds the Yonko, the best thing he'd be able to pull off against them is his Grand Sand Mausoleum for sealing. However, the problem with this logic is not only am I pretty sure Gaara doesn't have enough sand in his core to make these pyramids, but even if he does create one, it would use up all of his sand, leaving him open to an attack. Also, even if Gaara is defending himself with sand faster than the Yonko, all of them are more than capable of simply overpowering the sand even if it blitzes them. Therefore, the truth of the matter is, if the 5 Kage fought the Yonko, it wouldn't even be close. With the video wrapped up though, I'd like to quickly ask that you like and subscribe, as it really helps the video in the algorithm and gives me the incentive to pump out more. Also, if you enjoyed this video, then I'm sure you want to stick around, as I have a whole catalog of bingeable content just like this that you can watch right after this video. But with all that being said, I hope you guys are having a great day wherever you are, and until next time.